stream is transitioned. People on the internet, please let me know when you can hear us. And as always, we have an agenda that I am pulling up. Yay, we're live. Okay, agenda is shared to the YouTubers, and agenda is shared to us. First thing on the agenda, as usual, is testing update. Proto has been cataloging some of the issues that we've had in testing, although the system is great and has a lot of stuff where you want to refine it and make everyone's lives easier. So Proto, do you want to give us an update?
Sure. So yeah, we started looking into the testing problems the other clients now started to have. I already knew Prism was having some problems, so we resolved it eventually. There are bigger problems now though, or like there's memory problems where some clients simply can't handle the bigger mainnet tasks. So we're planning to split them up, make them organize them better. And so I posted this issue to describe the issues or like the smarter problems, and then did a survey to see like, hey, how can we improve this? And now I proposed a solution to move forward. And maybe we'll get to implement it like sometime by the end of this week. I have to figure it out.
Cool. So take a look at that new issue. I haven't had a chance to yet.
And thanks everyone for giving like responses to the survey questions so quickly. It's really useful to have this when thinking of the new solution.
Cool. Okay, any other testing things before we move on? Great. Let's move on to client updates. And today we can start with Prism.
Yeah, hey guys. So we're mostly just getting runtime to align with the spec freeze version. So we have been able to run single client with single beacon node with 64 validators pretty smoothly. And we're debugging a few sync related issues. On top of that, we're just optimizing SSE and our sparse Merkle tree implementation. We realized that's quite slow as we start doing syncing with multiple clients. And Raul also implemented a nice Eth1 data mock server to fake validate the deposit. So without changing our Prism code, we can do the chain start pretty easy. And yeah, that's about it.
Great, thanks. How about parity?
So for us, so we pass all the tests for 0.8, and we have a node that is able to send attestants and propose blocks. And right now we're just doing some other refactorings and before deciding for the next step. So that's for us.
Great, thanks. Artemis.
Hi. So we completed our 0.8 update. We're now patching to 0.8.1. And right now we're working on some reference tests. We're working with White Block and Prism to make sure their their ETH1 mock RPC client is able to generate deposits that output to YAML, and then we'll intake those YAML deposits in so we can generate a genesis state that's the same as Prismatic. That's it.
Cool, thanks. Harmony?
We have completed
one of the major milestones during this week was updating to 0.0 spec. We have completed that. The biggest problem was with SSE, especially with the bit lists and bit vectors and sparse Merkle trees. So pull request is still on the review, but I guess it will be merged tomorrow. Anyway, we passed all the tests now, so that's should be treated as completed thing. Next, we keep making progress on the P2P stuff. Anton is about to start implementing Gossip Sub protocol since next week. Also, we continued our research on attestation aggregation and a bit jumped off from this particular problem to the adjacent topic attestation delivery and discovered some potential issues there, but we want to double check our assumptions that we made during that research. So it's still work in progress. At the assurance engineer position, we have a big plans regarding QA for next few months. So that's it from us.
Great, thank you. Nimbus.
Hi. So we implemented most of 0.8.1 except SSC, but we are just on the verge of updating our SSC with the latest scheme. And also coming soon is a unit testing coverage of most of the state transition functions. We found some issue with justification and finalization. So that's something that we are investigating. We have a PR open and currently being reviewed to be able to bootstrap our Genesis through Web3. And we have our libp2p testnet that has been now running for 2 weeks, and we updated the build, so you can just run make. And what wasn't automated before was the installation of the Go libp2p daemon, and that's done now. Beyond that, on the support library that we are developing, we are focusing on metrics so that we will be able to have a nice metrics for Ethereum 2 and or async implementation for multi-threading, for features, sorry. And regarding Ethereum 1, now we have promising speed because we can sync about 400,000 blocks per hour until block 1.3 million. Then we have some issues. And we also hired Andrew Lim to maintain Ethereum 1. He has been working with us as a very long time bounty contributor for about a year.
Great, thank you. Trinity?
Hi. So we have a new PySSC release for the version 0.8.1, and we are close to passing the minimal test factor of the latest release. And thanks to Proto for the survey of the test suite, and yeah, that's very helpful. And for passing the mainnet test vector, I'm thinking that we need to do some necessary performance tuning for the mainnet test. That might be the thing that we need to do in the couple of weeks. And our team is also working on the PyLib2p implementation side for the functionalities that we need for the Trinity implementation. And we also are also making progress on the Discovery version 5 implementation this week. Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Lodestar?
So we're at 0.81 for everything at this point. We had a small bug that we're working through, but should be fine. And we're passing. And we're in the process of splitting everything out, so kind of prepping for moving forward with more tooling stuff. So hopefully, I don't know what it's, Wednesday, Thursday. So like tomorrow or this weekend at some point, you'll be able to like npm install like SSZ types, you know, config params, everything like that, and like individually import all of the related material. So that'll be really helpful for dev tooling as we start moving towards that. And we're just doing refactors kind of on our code base to make it a little bit more modular, so it's easier to import. As again, because we're moving forward to like light clients and dev tooling. But aside from that, that's kind of where we're at.
Great, thank you. Lighthouse.
Hey everyone. We're pretty much up to date with the 0.8.1 tests and everything, except for one for Genesis that we don't have the runner for yet. But in playing with that, Michael found, I think we may even found an issue in the spec today about get start shard. So anyway, we've just posted an issue 1315 about that today. So that might be an interesting one. We've introduced Chaos Monkey, and we've seen some good results on the network stability. Like we've been working a lot on making sure that like our test nets run for long times and with good block times. And on networking, our libp2p RPC implementation is updated to the latest proposal as well. And so we're just working on lots of like sort of implementation details and getting ready for interop, which is coming up. And so we're really excited to have a new resource working full time tomorrow as well to help us out with a lot of this stuff. We're making efficiency gains in like the way we store data and reduce our sort of memory usage. We've fleshed out our API spec to be sort of similar with other clients working towards interop. And we've also been trying to make sure that our Rust libp2p implementation works well with the Go implementation, which has been not as straightforward, and there's been some issues we're working through with that. And we're also about to review Quilt Team's SSZ PR as well. And that's it from us.
Great. That's a SSZ partials.
Yeah, Quilt Team have submitted a PR to us that we're in the process of reviewing.
Nice. Yeeth. Do we have Yeeth? I don't think so. Cool. Yeah, I was talking to Ian the other day, and it seems to be plugging away. Great. Oh, let's do the K. We can do a K update. The K beacon chain formal thing right now. Musab? I can't hear you if you're talking.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Hello, hi.
Hey.
Sorry. Yeah, so we're still working on doing this translation of the specification in K, and yeah, as we discussed before, we are now actually looking into specifying the Merkleization operation in K as well, because it turns out that we actually needed to do that. So, which is not going to be a big problem, really. It's just that will probably require some more time to do, but nothing fundamentally difficult there. Yeah, once we have that, I think, because this is what we have been trying to do at least for the last 2 weeks, which is to have something that we can actually run the tests on, without having to make any changes to the tests. So run the tests as they are. And we're hoping that by doing that, by doing this process, we're going to be able to do that soon. Initially on a subset of the specification, and then eventually on the entirety of the specification.
Great. Thanks, Musab. Cool. I believe that was all the clients, yes? Let's do research updates. So we have been working a lot on the phase 1 specification, and there's a ton of little trade-offs we've been exploring. Vitalik, I guess you can talk about that, and then anything else.
Yeah, so the things that we've been looking at is just trying to figure out some of the kind of fine details in phase 1. One of them is nailing down the persistent committee structure. And the approach that we seem to have settled on is this approach where we have a persistent committee, the entire persistent committee signs every block, and the persistent committee has a size that's capped at 128, and that reshuffles in a kind of staggering pattern once every, like basically one day. So that's kind of both nice and simple and accomplishes a lot of the objectives that at least I had with a persistent committee design. So that seems like it's kind of stabilized. The next thing that we looked at is cross-link data structure, and the approach that it seems we like the most is one where you have all of the headers first, and then the headers are all fixed sized objects, and then after that you have block bodies, and block bodies can be variable sized objects, but we can compute the offsets for accessing any block from data and that's inside of the headers. And one of the really nice benefits of this model is that you can still access shard block data from inside of the shard block header through the because the header contains the data root, and so we can still use fixed generalized indices to access like basically anything inside of a shard block from a cross-link data root, and basically pretend the whole thing is just an SSZ object, which is really nice. So that, and there's a PR that's doing both of those things that I worked on. Danny review made quite a lot of good comments on yesterday. So continuing to iron that out. The next thing I'm working on is updating the light client protocol. So the light client protocol was one of the kind of goals. We're making a light client protocol and both efficient and secure, and performance was one of the key goals of the persistence committee redesign. So basically, the approach now becomes much simpler because it basically says you have a block header. From the block header, you download a period committee, which was Merkle hashed into the header. Then you use that period committee and the period committee from the previous period to authenticate blocks of a particular shard during the next period that authenticate blocks within that shard. And then those blocks contain pointers to beacon blocks. And when you point by doing that, you basically can figure out what the updated state is of any particular shard, or of any particular or is the recent beacon chain state. So that's something that I'm also in the process of reworking. For SSZ partials, I made a kind of proposal for a canonical ordering for hashes in an SSZ partial object, aka an SSZ multi-proof, and I have some kind of reasoning for why I think that's a good idea. Those are probably the main things on the phase 1 shard chain side. I mean, the other one is also just how rewards and penalties work. So that's the last thing that'll probably need to be written after this first PR gets in. And on the proof
Any
of custody
questions before we move on? I know some of the shard chain terminology is maybe still a little bit foreign.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So regarding the the Markov partials, would it be possible to make the data structure so that we have the tree hash root of the Markov partial the same as the complete Markov root?
Good question. I mean, theoretically, you could do that by just making a kind of custom SSZ type. And so far, I haven't really moved in that gone in that direction. Basically, just because, like, first of all, it would be more difficult, but second, it would, basically concerns that it actually would kind of add more complexity in a bunch of ways. Like the big one being that a single object SSZ partials would not kind of reduce to being exactly the same as a Merkle proof anymore. But I mean, it is something I haven't thought enough about, and I could think about it more.
I mean, I think we can just. I mean, we don't have the property that the Markov tree hash is actually deterministic. We can have multiple tree result in the same tree hash or vice versa. We just need the SSA to be deterministic. So I just think this might be something worth thinking about. And I actually have a data structure, a RAS implementation that can potentially do that, but yeah.
Okay. I'll think about it more.
Yeah, if you want to share that link too.
Yeah, it's I will finish everything today and share the link.
Thanks.
How are you currently storing general indices? Like what happens whenever they're larger than U256 or something?
So the approach that I'm taking is basically saying that I don't think that we should be storing indices as part of the partial itself. So the reason I have for this is that, like, one, that's not what we do for Merkle proofs. For Merkle proofs, we pass the index separately. Two, there's a lot of cases where, like, you should not need to be serializing the set of indices because the set of indices can just be calculated in real time. So the biggest example of this is if you have a partial that's going down to some object, but then you want to capture the entire object. So, like, for example, you want to capture an entire validator record at some index, then really all you need is the validator index rather than the set of generalized indices. So
it's more based on the path than it is. The general indices are built in real time based on the path.
yeah, basically.
Okay.
The generalized index is a path, right? Like it literally is a bitless serialization of the path, binary encoded. But
I just want to mention as well, there are variations in how indexes can be constructed based on what path is being sought. So in some cases, you can have streaming index construction. In some cases, you need the entire data set. That's for another time.
okay.
Cool. Custody games? Was that the next thing you were going to bring up, Vitalik?
What was that? POC? And I was going to suggest that Dankred might be better for talking about that. But
Great. Is Dankred here? I don't think he is. Right. Well, Dankred has a PR up right now for integrating the genre symbol into group custody game to make it more multi-party computation friendly. But he can tell us more about that maybe next time. Cool. Other research updates?
Well, there's this little gap in the phase 0 research I tried to fill with the surround vote matching. And so last week I looked into it, set up a repository with an explanation. And now we could, there's a few things need to be polished, but there's potentially a 30 times improvement there. So we've reduced the size from like 70 gigabytes, 75 gigabytes to 2.5 gigabytes for 8 months of data.
Yeah.
I have a question actually. What about crosslinks in phase 0? I just remember that we have an issue about finality and crosslinks, the old cases, the edge case. So what about this? I mean, do we have any solutions?
Right. I think it likely that we simplify the mechanism, but we haven't been focusing on this verification and potentially this, and we'll probably address it there rather than making a change right now. Because this data is stubbed in phase 0, it's not immediately super pressing, but we'll probably get a simplifying solution in the next couple of months.
I've got a couple quick updates from Quilt.
Great.
So John Adler just posted a document to ETH Research compiling some of the questions that we still have regarding ETH 2.0 and areas that we feel need to be more thoroughly researched. I think, okay, yeah, John dropped the link for that. And then, yeah, like Luke said, we just completed initial implementation of SSE partials in Rust. It's a pull request in the Lighthouse repo that I linked to earlier. If some more people could just take a look at that and ping me with any questions or comments, that would be really cool. We have come up with a plan for implementing a harnessed single shard phase 1 and 2 engine on top of Lighthouse, and we'll be implementing that over the next few weeks in parallel with building a simple transfer execution environment similar to what Vitalik proposed in the phase 2 proposal. And Will has been busy leading our efforts on that test net. So we're bringing someone in to continue working on some of the questions that are still lingering about relays and fee markets. And he'll be collaborating closely with that person on those questions. So hopefully we'll have more research around that next few weeks. That's it.
Great, thanks. Anyone from the EWASM team have any updates? Oh, I think we lost our one EWASM person. Okay, any other research updates?
I've been putting quite a bit of work into the deposit side of things as to how the deposit contract is going to work. How we actually launch all of that and get people to deposit. The proposal here being that if the EF does this in a more centralized manner, that there's one set of tools that everyone can use, that may make things a bit easier. If there's a central resource for everyone to look to for their deposits. And it also means that validators aren't then tied to, or users aren't tied to their client software, because these client softwares will have to be able to ingest these validator keys anyway. Yeah, so the basic idea here is, well, I've mostly been working on trying to come up with my standards for that. It looks like for the just raw, what the clients will need is to be able to pass the key store files. We may as well use what exists in ETH1 right now. That seems to work fairly well. The more complexities arise for how to do the deterministic paths for which keys you get out of the key tree. The current system is all based on the old curve, and switching over to BLS 12381 has a few changes around that. So I have some new proposals around that that I've been working on.
Cool. Yeah, and I think to clarify, the intention around building out some initial deposit tooling is for ease of use across the ecosystem, but I think over time, validator clients and or like full implementations would probably take more of that responsibility on internally. Cool. Any other research updates? Great. Next thing on the list is networking. Any updates from various parties? Great. There is that standardization PR open. I think the intention is to get probably the next 5 days get a lot of that locked down, so we can iterate, at least have a stable target. I know Lighthouse has already kind of incorporated the current. We'll move from there.
Yep, we're still working on that. So I should be updating that PI, hopefully, yeah, as you said, within 5 days or so.
Cool. Raul, anything of note on Protocol Labs, the P2P side?
Nothing major. We've been running around helping out teams as we've been pulled into conversations and participating as well in the report that Kyokan wrote, and responding to that as well, taking action on our side to become even more helpful to the community. We've approved a new grant for naming the B2B, and also been supporting JVM the B2B. So just been running around helping people as we've been called into action.
Great, thank you. Is there any movement on the a team that might work on some conformance tests?
So not yet. I did receive a few leads from my call out on Twitter, and I need to follow up on them.
Cool, thanks. How about Antoine? Anything going on in White Block worth reporting? I know y'all are in LA right now doing some interop testing.
Yeah, we're in LA. We're Artemis is here. We're also working closely with Prism. So Prism and Artemis are working on a cold start with a simple script that they can use to simulate the Genesis event. And so we agreed on a kind of a simple set of tests for now. And the Artemis team is hard at work on implementing those scenarios.
Cool.
Yep.
Very exciting. Okay. Shall I move on? Yes. Spec discussion. Any questions or comments or issues that have arisen? I haven't. I just saw that issue that was reported by Michael from Lighthouse, but I haven't actually parsed it. I think that it's. But we, if that is actually an issue, we can release another release probably like mid next week that has a couple of minor things and it's bug fix. Any other spec related things that we want to address right now? I have a few. So I have a few things in the Eth2.0 PM repo that people have looked at. In there, I think we will start just cataloging in like interop/standards or something the little things that will make our lives easier in like doing tests and test startups and things, like coordinating on cold starts, standardizing on key files, that kind of stuff. So that conversation and those mini specs will live there. So keep your eye out for that, and I'll make a note when there's stuff up for review. If people aren't following that repo too closely. And I ask, as I think I've asked people individually, but as you do work on interop stuff with, say, another single client, there are going to be a handful of like things that pop up where you have to make decisions like, oh, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? If you push those concerns and your potential solutions upstream into the Eth2.0 PM repo for conversation, that will help a lot. Because I've tried to catalog the things that have come to mind so far, but there is a lot of stuff that I'm not currently thinking of that's only going to really fall out when we have a couple people trying to connect. Okay. SPAC discussion over. Open discussion. Is there anything people want to bring up, address?
Yes. We submitted a proposal for it's proposal 81 on Moloch for Lodestar. I'll drop a link here in the chat. It's basically going to give Lodestar like 3 months of runway for development, and I think that would be great because it would be really great if Lodestar had the funding to make it to production. And so Molochians who are here would appreciate the support on that. Well, you know, now it is an overwhelmingly yes on proposal 81. You know, you just never know what can happen with votes. And so kind of like voting yes is going to ensure that Lodestar gets their 3 months of runway, but also kind of like creates a mandate because this is kind of a 3-part thing. They had broken up the grant into 3 parts rather than a single grant based on some recommendations. So please vote yes for that if you have shares in Moloch.
Thanks, Joseph. Okay. Any other things? We're very early today.
And I pushed a reply to that research questions on the research problem, so we're gonna take a look.
Cool. Okay. Well, seems like everyone's got a lot to work on. I think 2 weeks from now is likely a good time. I haven't taken a look at the calendar yet, but we'll let you know if that is not the case. I know everyone's pretty heads down, working, getting ready for this interop thing in September. Super excited. Got my plane ticket. Great. Thanks. Appreciate everyone coming. Talk to y'all soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.